when we look at Spain, I mean, they're going to be the longest living people by 2050. And, they consume above the 10% saturated fat mark. The French consume above it. I mean, these are all populations that live longer and have fewer heart attacks than the recommendations that we're getting. And so that notion around diet quality, can you talk a bit about saturated fat and that importance of diet quality, how that becomes a key part of that story?
Yes, for sure. I mean, even within saturated fat, some of these associations, if you look at more whole food sources like dairy or beef or chocolate for that matter, some of these associations, when you look at the whole food sources of saturated fat, then again, you start to see that these associations largely become neutral. So those are important things to know too, that definitely the matrix in which these are consumed, that we refer to as the food matrix, that is definitely important to highlight, and therefore like messages of saturated obviously are a little bit more nuanced. But then again, on the other hand, I mean, maybe current intakes of especially like very long chain polyunsaturated fatty acids like omega-3s, right? There we generally see a benefit when you substitute those. For instance, fish eaters, but at some point, that is also gonna top out. But that's also, I think, why now with associative data, you can generally see some of these advantages for swapping out saturated fat with more unsaturated fat. But you point out in the Spanish and the French, then yes, there's definitely a paradox there.
There is, and even just the saturated fat from junk food. I mean, that always seems to sort of get a pass in terms of all, there's the tonnage of, when you look at the intakes of saturated fat in these countries, I mean, the vast majority is coming from processed junk food, which sort of seems to get a pass almost, or we sort of just, and then we focus on a food that has, the protein quality, the obviously the micronutrients. Now we're talking phytochemicals.
Yeah.
And so on that bigger picture of diet quality, it does become a bit of a, I guess for the general public, it just becomes a distraction because you see so many people that come in that are avoiding foods. Like, I don't want to eat steak, so I'm going to go for this other alternative. And it happens to be this pre-prepared, processed, calorically rich, carbohydrate rich, and it's like, we're making things worse than easier by the explanations that we're giving to folks.
Yeah, I agree. It's the reductionist approach to nutrition, and it's reductionist messaging, and always associating single foods or single nutrients without respect to like diet quality, and linking those to health outcomes. I think it's definitely problematic, and there's a shift now slowly towards more dietary patterns where also in my field, scientists realize that we should study dietary balance. And you also see it with the dietary guidelines for Americans, that there's more attention being paid now to dietary patterns, where we talk about Mediterranean diets, Okinawan diets, or you name it, traditional Nordic diets. What do all these diets have in common? Despite the fact that they are very much different, what they have in common is that the diet quality is high.